I was bullied really severely as a child, and that kind of set me off into a downward spiral where I wasn't able to handle or process my emotions in a healthy way, and I was living in a constant state of fear. I was always waiting for the next bullying incident to happen. I began making some decisions that led me further and further away from my holistic or authentic self and into drug use. And it was like drugs was like, oh my God, great, something that can cover up the pain. But it escalated. And even when I got completely addicted to heroin and cocaine and crystal meth and pills and everything that goes with being that level of an addict,
Mm-hmm.
it was never enough.
Mm-hmm.
No matter how I would feel and what it would do, it was never ever enough. And eventually it got to a point where, I had overdosed many times. I lost some of my closest, nearest and dearest friends, and knew that if I didn't wake up and cut this out, then my time was gonna probably come quicker than I thought.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember making a decision that with such firm intensity that I'm going to change now. I don't care what I have to face, I'm gonna face any of it. I remember making that decision, and I feel it's instrumental for people who are trying to turn their lives around and want to get on an upward trend. You have to make a decision with such firm amplitude, with such firm decision-making power that you are going to change your life no matter what. Because that decision keeps coming back into the periphery of your awareness, and it keeps checking you could say. I just got it in the sense that as long as I kept directing what little bit of intelligence I had to this profound innate intelligence of my body, which, I looked at it, I'm like, my body's way more intelligent than I am, but I realized that by making a habit out of directing my attention to my inner world, meaning feeling my heartbeat, feeling how my body has all these beautiful, mind-blowing, awe-inspiring physiological and autonomic reactions and responses taking place. When I focused on that, I felt better, especially as I started to really develop these possibilities within me. I got to a point where I was generating so many feel-good chemicals inside of me that no drug or addiction to past behaviors, emotions, attitudes could even come close to replicating this feeling. The reality behind all this is anybody can do this. Nobody is exempt from not being able to do it. We can become aware of by letting go of who we think we are, by getting into this state where our body is producing feel-good chemicals. When you know how to do it and you apply it with consistency, then the results start to become self-evident. And when the results come and you start to feel better than you ever have, and you start seeing the circumstances of your life reflect this internal state, then you are inspired to keep going and to keep cultivating and keep developing the possibilities that being in this state represent to you.
What challenges did you face and what helped you?
My life, ever since I got clean, my life just still wasn't quite right. I was making I never healed the root cause of my addiction. It's like I used all that energy to get out of the addiction. But then when I was like, okay, I made it, I survived, I never addressed the root cause of it. I conjured up incredible willpower, and that I stuck with it, and that I was able to get through something that was really, really difficult at the time. But the reasons why I did it were still there. And it wasn't actually until I got arrested and went to prison for selling marijuana. And I spent 3 years in there. And it wasn't until I was in there that I've truly hit my rock bottom. I hadn't been using, but I was still addicted, you could say. Everything gets brought out to the utmost extreme degree when you're in a place like that. And I had no choice, essentially, but to live as a victim or to find a way out of it. I made that decision that I was going to love life and love my existence way more than I was my addiction. And so I employed the same kind of mechanism in that I was like, well, I'm going to love and embrace this place, this experience that I'm having, even though I don't like it. I began considering like, well, what would I have to change about myself to be able to do that? Because from all outward appearances, there's every reason to feel like a victim here. Finally, I let go. And when I let go, I felt this great peace come over me. The challenges was overcoming myself. I had that was the number one challenge that really kept me in a state of perpetual suffering. That when I realized that I didn't have to do that anymore and that I could live in accordance with this greater acceptance of reality, it began to really change quick.
So what do you want people to know about recovery? But also, what does recovery mean to you?
I don't look at recovery as an isolated event. I look at it as one thing amongst many things that are always happening, that if we create a barrier of resistance to it, then it just gets worse. If we can find it within ourselves to not resist it and instead embrace it, it gets better. That really is something that is part of a much greater system that we aren't able to comprehend with our normal senses. But that when we trust it and embrace it as something that's trying to teach us something greater than we had the capability of recognizing when we were stuck in our suffering, then it allows the process of recovery to take on a much greater meaning and almost become something that, aside from all its severity and seriousness, that is something that can truly be a teacher. It wasn't easy, but it was simple. To me, recovery it's one step in the greater recognition of this process, because I know as an addict, I wasn't doing it to just cover up my pain. I was seeking something greater. I was seeking a way to transcend my own limitations, my own feelings of stagnation, my own limited awareness. I just didn't know how to do it in any other way at that point. And so drugs just became the necessary option because there was nothing else.
There's this language about pathways to recovery. What's your pathway?
The path is really one of freedom. It's really simply about choosing to love it's a reprioritization of values. It's one, you have to be honest with yourself, and it's like I said, number one is making that decision that you're going to change no matter what. That's the first thing, because it keeps coming back to that. Then from there, it's choosing to feel these feelings inside of you, this elevated state of being that you have the ability to generate from within you. So essentially, it is just a path of unification. It's a path of becoming whole within oneself. It's choosing to make the inner world of perception of self where the emphasis of value is placed. It's not about ignoring the external world. It's about creating a balance between the internal world and the external world. We give most of our attention to extraneous or outer circumstances, and we give so little attention to internal states of being. So when we reshift those scales and start placing a lot more emphasis and attention upon these internal states of being, then the outer world around us takes on a whole new dimension, bringing yourself into a habitual state of presence that we start to shed all of the past, all of the old beliefs, behaviors, actions that are hardwired into our perception of self and reality. But it's in becoming present that we shed all those things and let them go and liberate them, because they're just old energy. When you're in that and you know it is and you feel like it, you keep creating intentionally, you keep creating circumstances and situations that further reinforce you being in that state of presence, and that you then learn how to sustain as a result of that.